Vicki Claris.
Yes.
We're sitting here in the food laboratory. It's not like a laboratory with like test tubes. It's a place where we get to come for lunch, right? When we're testing our food. That's the lab part of it, I guess. We're going to test our food. So why are we doing this today?
Well, in honor of the last shuttle flight, we're going to have what we call an all-American meal. Originally, this was planned as a July 4th meal when the flight was going to be going during July 4th.
You should have known better to plan like that, because you know what happens when you plan.
But now that the launch has slipped past July 4th, it's now called the All-American Meal.
Okay.
And so we're going to offer an opportunity for the public to see some of what the crew's going to be eating on orbit so that they can eat like the commander if they would like to during the flight.
On the 4th of July. So we can kind of, this is like a 4th of July meal that's going to be eaten
postponed.
On like July the 14th or something.
It's something like that,
10 days after. But that's okay. All right. So that's what, now there's some, you said it's an all-American meal.
Yes. So we have barbecue brisket.
You're right.
Yes.
But I also see, it says there's barbecue, I don't know if you can see this, or Matt, if you can zoom in, it says barbecue, but there's also some funny language on the bottom there.
That would be Cyrillic.
Cyrillic, which is Russian. So even though it's an all-American meal, it's translated so the Russians can have it too. Is that what the story is?
Exactly.
All right, okay.
The foods that we send to ISS, we've been putting the Cyrillic on there as well in order to make it easy for our Russian colleagues.
And they do the same for us, right? With their food, we can get it. They have so the point is, it's an international space station. So there's multiple languages, even on your food.
Yes.
So that different crew members from around the world can know.
And we actually did this when we first started out working with the Russians, but now I'm not even sure it's necessary anymore because our crew members, you know, our U.S. crew members know Russian fairly well and vice versa, and so it may not even be necessary anymore, but we're still doing it.
It's a nice reminder of the international flight.
Sure.
Do you ever lie about what it is?
No.
Like, you know, these Americans will never eat this salmon, so, you know, they put down it's, you know, fudge cake.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, it's a little, you ever try to do that trick anymore?
But some of the translations do come out a little interesting. For instance, we have a fiesta chicken, and to Americans, fiesta means that's a Southwest style spice, right?
Yeah.
Okay, when you translate that into Russian, the question comes back from our Russian colleagues, what is a party chicken?
Because fiesta is a party.
Yes.
Party chicken.
Party chicken. So a little bit gets lost in the translation sometimes.
I kind of like the idea of the party chicken better.
Yeah.
I think I'd be more likely to eat the party chicken than I would. Okay. All right, but we have today, we have
the barbecue brisket.
Barbecue brisket.
We have baked beans.
Oh, yeah.
We have southwestern corn. And we have lemonade.
Oh, man.
And on orbit, they're also going to be adding some fresh items to that, which are not our space foods. But this is the space food items that are going to comprise the all-American meal.
Now you mentioned what's going to be their fresh items.
Well, we're going to add some crackers, and we're going to add some brie cheese.
Now I know why you didn't mention it.
And we're going to add some commercial apple pies.
Apple pie. All right, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Because you need apple pie on the 4th of July.
But we don't have a shelf-stable version of that.
So you're going to give them fresh apple pie?
No, it's a commercial shelf-stable apple pie. We just don't have one in our flight system. So these are the items of the flight food that are going to be included.
Oh, okay. So that's going to be a commercial, like you get it from the grocery store.
Right.
They're just going to get that apple pie.
Right.
And of course, we can't mention which one it is because this is the government. We're not allowed to do any advertising. But I'm sure it's going to be a good apple pie.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's what they're going to have on for their 4th of July. Their belated 4th of July.
Their belated 4th of July meal. Correct.
And this is the last shuttle flight.
Yes, it is.
So this is kind of historic. And one thing I noticed here on the silverware that we have here, I don't know, Matt, if you can see that, the silverware.
It's engraved.
Go right in there. See, it's engraved there. It says shuttle on it, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to keep this silverware around, or are we going to, what's going to happen to it?
Yeah, we're going to keep it around. We also have quite a few sets that were not used for shuttle that we're going to be flying to station for our crew members to use as well.
It's going to say shuttle on it?
Yeah, it's going to say shuttle on it because it's already been engraved that way.
I thought I was going to get a good deal on some shuttle silverware here is what I thought was going to happen. But you're still going to be using it to fly it in space. It's still space stuff. Have you tried this stuff? Am I the only one that gets to eat?
Yeah.
There's a whole crowd of people. I'm the only one that gets to eat. Of course, in space, if we ate it like this, it'll all be floating around.
Yeah, on orbit, they'll be eating it out of the packages that you see here.
As usual, that is delicious.
I'm glad you like it.
Whose idea was it to do this, to get this, to do this for these guys? Was this the Food Lab came up with this
Well,
idea?
actually, Sandy Magnus, I believe, was the originator of the idea because, as you're probably aware, when shuttles have gone and docked with station, they usually plan some kind of joint meal. And so Sandy, being a member of the 135 crew, she was trying to think of a joint meal to plan, and because of July 4th, she came up with the idea for a July 4th meal, and that's where this originated.
Okay. And Sandy has been a long duration crew member as well, so
she's
probably thinking that way.
Right.
Those other guys are probably like, oh, we don't care what we eat. But you know, Sandy's probably thinking ahead there about
and she's well aware, having spent long duration on station, she's well aware of the psychological benefit to something special like this on orbit.
And that's one of the important things about food, right? It's not just to nourish you. You don't take care of that and make sure that we have the right nourishment, right? We can't just eat fudge cake the whole time.
Right.
We've tried it; they don't let you, right? You have to have a balanced meal when you're out there. But it's also the comfort. It's like kind of nice to. It reminds you of home. It's soothing, right? You get much good like this. It's a psychological thing.
The psychological aspect of food has become a lot more predominant now that we've gone to long duration flight. I mean, you know, obviously, I came to work here early in the shuttle program when all we were doing was very short duration flights, and the psychological aspect of food was not.
They didn't care.
Yeah, they didn't care. It's like a camping trip.
A jar of peanut butter and a loaf of bread or whatever, they'd be fine.
But as we, you know, as we went into NEAR, the Phase 1 program, and now into our 6-month stays on the ISS, the psychological importance of food to the crew members has become quickly very obvious to them, and that was something, you know, it was an education for the crew members to learn the psychological importance of the food, and then we had to educate management of the psychological importance of the food as well, so that they could be sure that the food gets there on time, that they get their special requests and things like that.
That's very important for morale and getting your job done. And it's, you know, we do these training exercises where we go out on the National Outdoor Leadership School or survival training. You know, not survival training. You don't have food, but when you go on some of these training trips we go on, you're out there for more than a few days. You start realizing the importance of morale, and food really impacts morale. Having something that you enjoy eating, having a meal together, that is very, very important. That's what we find even on our shuttle flights that are a couple of weeks. It's important to help you get your job done. Making sure you have stuff that you like, that you enjoy. It kind of connects you with the earth, you know, and what it's important. When I was a kid, we used to think that astronauts were eating out of tubes, and I guess they did back in they did in the Apollo days.
Back in the day, they did.
They actually did eat out of food. And at some point, we changed from the tubes to regular food. Did that happen during the shuttle program then?
Well, it happened much more extensively during shuttle. It actually started occurring during Apollo and Skylab. Of course, Mercury and Gemini early on were exclusively the cubes and the tubes. But slowly over time it evolved, and as we went into shuttle, you know, we expanded the menu. But then when long duration spaceflight came along, we really expanded the food list, and we're up to about 180 different foods and beverages on the U.S. side now.
On the U.S. side. Now that doesn't include any of the Russian, Japanese stuff, because there's a lot of good stuff over there too.
Yeah,
isn't
they have quite a bit of products as well. So
have you got the Italians in the act? You know, Italy has some pretty good food.
Yeah.
Have you gotten the Italians in on the act?
Well, not so much yet. They have maybe just for some fresh items on a single flight, but we haven't really gotten them into the act of providing, like, we have the French items and some German items that are provided on a routine basis. But the Italians
like, what do you have from the French and the Germans? What do you?
Well, the French actually have their canned entrees, and actually they were designed by a chef, and so they're quite good.
It's pretty fancy pants stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is look how good that plate looks right there. Right, that is delicious. That'd make anyone want to be an astronaut, right?
Right.
So if people want to enjoy this at home, is there any way they can get this for their own 4th of July celebration at home?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to post the formulations of these flight food items, And then if they want to try
Formulations.
Yeah.
Is that a fancy way of saying recipe? We don't have recipes here at NASA. But no cookbook. We have a formula book. There's going to be a textbook.
Well, formulations are a little bit different than recipes, but because usually formulations are designed to make many, many servings of an item. But
I think we want to keep that quiet. That we're not using recipes. The crew find that this is a formula for your. I'm glad I didn't know that when I was in space. You were using formulas. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
So they.
So we are going to post some of the
right.
formulations if they would like to reproduce those at home.
Okay, and they're easy to cook? They're really easy?
Well, our processing is a little bit different because we don't have refrigerators and freezers for food. And so our food has to be made shelf stable, meaning that it can be at room temperature for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And so that's actually a little more challenging than just cooking something to serve it immediately at home because you have to go through a more extensive process to make it shelf stable.
Right, and for us as astronauts, one of the best things about the food is not only that it tastes good, but it's easy to cook.
Right.
Because we get it in this form, in this package, and let's have some grilled chicken. We throw it in the oven, cut it open, and it's delicious.
Right.
Right, or we don't have to mix ingredients. I think if we want to add a little salt or spices, we can do that. So you take care of all of that here.
Right.
And you know what I'm wondering? Do we really want to know what's inside? You know, sometimes you're better off, because, you get the package here, okay, what do we got here? We got corn, we're going to eat the corn. But when you start talking about the formulations, are we going to get, would we be freaked out if we looked at what that is?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
Are you trying to hide stuff in there? Like my mom, my mom she would make a chocolate chip cookie supposedly, but she'd make them like with oatmeal and raisins and stuff.
To make them healthier.
I guess. Are you doing that same thing now? So you mixing raisins in our brisket?
Well,
or anything like that?
we aren't really doing that, but I can say we are striving to reduce the sodium in our foods to try to make them healthier for our crew members.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yes.
All right. All right. Well, this is, if you want to eat this at home, they can get it. What's the website people can go to have an astronaut 4th of July?
NASA.gov.
NASA. They can go to NASA.gov and look for menu formulations. Okay, so they can go to NASA. You can go to NASA.gov and look under menu formulations. Is that right? Menu formulations, and you can find out what we have here, and you can have your own space-themed 4th of July. What could be any better?
That's right.
All right. Well, Vicki, thanks very much for
You're welcome.
for feeding me, and I think I'm going to stay here for lunch and finish this up.
Okay.
This is really good.